Everyone thought he was just an old man. His gray hair, stooped posture, and slow steps stood out in a team full of sharp, fit young men. Some even joked he must have wandered in by mistake. "What's this old guy doing here?" they whispered. Others laughed out loud, not even trying to hide it. But he said nothing. His name was Leonard Hayes. He was 72 years old, a former search and rescue officer, but no one knew that. Even the team leader thought he was just an observer invited for protocol. On the first day, Leonard didn't speak much. He just wandered around the training facility. What looked like idle curiosity to others was a calculated scan. His eyes mapped the structure, memorizing fire exits, blind corners, and choke points. He was preparing, silently, strategically, and then it happened. Early the next morning, an explosion echoed from the basement level. Fire alarms blared. The lights went out. Panic set in. Young recruits screamed, scattering in every direction. Some dove under desks. Others froze in place. No one knew what to do. No one, except Leonard. Without a word, he reached for the nearest fire extinguisher. He wrapped his coat around his head for protection and moved straight toward the danger. As smoke filled the hallways, he pushed forward, calmly. He fought the flames and carried unconscious trainees to safety. That was when jaws dropped. This old man, supposedly just a passive observer, was moving with more focus and courage than anyone else. While others panicked, he entered the chaos alone, again and again, rescuing them one by one. Every soldier who locked eyes with him in that moment shared the same thought. Who is he? By his third trip into the burning corridor, Leonard paused at the stairwell, hands on his knees, breathing hard, but his eyes stayed locked on the fire. When he heard another scream, he didn't wait. "We don't have time," he muttered, and charged back in. Outside, someone started filming with their phone. A young recruit whispered, "Is he crazy? Or is he some kind of legend?" That day, 11 people were trapped inside, and Leonard saved every single one of them. By the time the fire was fully extinguished, hours had passed. The facility was wrecked, but miraculously everyone was safe, all because of one old man. Leonard Hayes sat quietly on a folding chair, clutching an oxygen mask, breathing in silence. The radios were quiet, the panic had faded, but that silence, it echoed in every mind. A young recruit approached, almost nervously. "Mr. Hayes, who are you really?" Leonard looked up. His eyes didn't show exhaustion. They burned with something older, deeper. "Just someone," he said, "someone who's been through enough fires to know which ones die out and which don't." But that answer wasn't enough. That day, reports about Leonard reached higher ranks. Investigations began, and within days, the truth surfaced. Leonard Hayes had once served in an elite rescue unit 40 years ago. From avalanche zones to war zones, he had pulled people from the brink more times than records could count. But in China, during a mission gone wrong, Leonard disobeyed a direct order to evacuate and instead went back to save 3 trapped soldiers. He succeeded, but officially, he was reprimanded, discharged, and buried under bureaucracy. Unofficially, those 3 men were still alive. One of them, now Major Kessler, heard Leonard's name and rushed to the facility. "I can't believe it's you," he said, stunned. You, you were the guy." Leonard gave a small nod. "You carried all of us out that night. They should have honored you. Instead, they buried you." No one else could hear their full conversation, but something had shifted in that room. Reputation, recognition, redemption. Leonard was still a hero, but the system had tried to make him forget. The next day, a special meeting was held to restructure facility protocols. Surprisingly, Leonard was invited as a consultant. When he walked into the room, every young soldier stood. No one told him to. They just knew. This wasn't just an old man anymore. This was a leader. Although Leonard was officially hired as a consultant, no one truly expected much from him. On paper, he was emergency protocol advisor. But on the ground, he was still just the old man. At least that's what most of the younger staff believed. Until the first alarm went off, it was supposed to be a simulation, a routine drill. But due to a system glitch, the base interpreted it as a real emergency. In the middle of the night, soldiers scrambled out of their bunks, officers on shift froze at their stations, and panic flooded the corridors. But something was missing. Leadership. Young commanders shouted over radios. Everyone tried doing something, but no one was truly in charge. Fire suppression systems had triggered by accident, sealing multiple exits. Confusion spread faster than flames. And the question on everyone's face was the same. What do we do now? At that moment, Leonard calmly walked to the control panel. He picked up the mic. He didn't shout. He simply spoke in a firm, steady voice. Listen, now is not the time to panic. Follow my instructions exactly. And it was as if the entire base had been waiting for that voice. Leonard knew which exits were locked. He knew which floors still had power. Why? Because for days he had been quietly studying the layout, observing systems, memorizing protocols. He hadn't told anyone, but he had been preparing, like a soldier. Under his guidance, the staff moved with precision. Evac routes were cleared, power systems redirected, lock mechanisms bypassed. When the drill ended and everything returned to normal, another kind of silence fell, one born of respect. A young female lieutenant approached Leonard, extending her hand with a smile. "We weren't trained for this," she said, "but you just taught us something real." From that moment forward, Leonard wasn't just a consultant. His name wasn't whispered anymore. It was spoken with reverence. More and more recruits began to gather around him. They wanted to work with him, learn from him. Leonard didn't answer every question. He didn't explain everything. But one truth became clear. A leader isn't born by giving orders. He's born by inspiring others. Leonard rose with the sun. Before the base stirred to life, he made himself a quiet cup of coffee and stepped onto the veranda. His eyes scanned the horizon, but his mind was far from the present. It had drifted back to a different place, a different time. One of the newer recruits, eager and full of youthful energy, approached him. "Mr. Leonard, last night you really inspired everyone. How did you stay so calm?" Leonard smiled gently, pausing before he answered. After a slow sip of his coffee, he spoke in a low tone. "Because panic makes noise, not solutions. In silence, you hear your own voice." The young man nodded like he was etching the words into his mind. But just then a distant sound, a faint buzz, a static echo, tickled Leonard's ears. It wasn't real. It was memory, a radio crackle, a scream, an explosion. His eyes briefly glossed over, but only for a moment. He steadied himself, as always. Later that day, the camp organized another drill. This time, the young recruits were assigned leadership roles. Leonard was invited as an observer, but don't let that word fool you. He never just observed. At first, the exercise went smoothly, but then a failure in the comm system cut off coordination between teams. One young leader made a miscalculated call, sending his unit into a risky maneuver. Leonard didn't jump in right away. He watched, studied how the youth responded. He wanted to see how far their instincts could carry them. But when one recruit was nearly injured due to the confusion, Leonard stepped forward. He didn't yell. He didn't run. He simply said loud enough to carry weight, "Stop. If you don't know where you're going, don't take the step." The words hung in the air, part command, part wisdom. Heads turned. Leonard calmly approached the map the team was using. He made quick corrections, adjusted their plan, and walked them through how to recover from the mistake. When the drill ended, a wave of relief swept over the trainees. The base commander walked over, face curious. "Be honest with me, Leonard. Who are you really?" Leonard smiled, reaching into his pocket to pull out a small, gleaming badge. "I'm just a man reminding himself who he used to be. My past prefers silence." The commander gave a slight bow of his head. Leonard was no longer just a consultant. He was a living legend among them. It was the final week of boot camp. Only a few days left until graduation. Everyone was exhausted, but proud. Their sweat had turned into achievement. Yet one man still rose at the same hour, drank the same black coffee, and sat in the same quiet spot. Leonard. The recruits no longer called him just Mr. Leonard. He had become Mr. L, a title wrapped in respect, story, and legacy. That morning, the base stirred with unusual activity. A special assignment was being organized, a high-stakes simulation designed to mimic real-life crisis scenarios. Normally, observers didn't participate, but this time the commander made an exception. "Leonard, we want you to lead this mission." Leonard paused, then asked a single question. "Are the young ones ready?" The commander didn't hesitate. "Thanks to you, more than ready." The simulation began. It was tougher than expected. A breach in security, sabotage, hostages. One wrong move, and the entire mission would fail. Leonard coordinated the operation like a conductor. He watched every detail, directed silently when panic struck, and gave guidance with calm precision. Suddenly, an error occurred. The system glitched. Lights went out. Darkness took over. A voice cried out from the chaos, "What do we do? We can't see anything." Leonard knelt to the ground, placed his hands in the dirt, and, like muscle memory, felt the direction of the dust. Then he spoke a single word, "Silence." And in the pitch black, he continued, "Don't panic. Darkness doesn't test your eyes. It tests your soul." His words cut through the fear. The team refocused. Following Leonard's voice and wisdom, they regrouped and completed the mission. After the exercise, the camp fell silent. The commander approached him. "It's been an honor working with you." Leonard nodded humbly. Then he walked into the circle of recruits. His eyes were misty, but he didn't cringe. There was no exhaustion, only completion. One young recruit reached out. "Mr. L, I want to be like you." Leonard shook his hand firmly. "Don't be like me. Be yourself, but never forget. When facing darkness, stay silent and trust your heart." The next morning, Leonard was gone. No one saw him leave. No goodbyes. All he left behind was an empty coffee cup on the veranda. But to those who remained, that cup was a legacy. The camp no longer just taught drills, it taught spirit. And that spirit had a name, Leonard.